Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, Regina's only downtown brewery. So a big milestone reached this week, John, as once again we've learned that there is fewer than 100 days until the Grey Cup in Edmonton. I know I'm planning to be there, and I believe you talked about joining me there as part of 3 Down Nation's coverage for the Grey Cup this year. We'll probably do a podcast there at some point or another, maybe late at night in one of the parties. We'll see how that works out for us, but most importantly, we know...
Probably gold. Solid gold.
Absolutely. What could go wrong? So...
Nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So that means that once again this year, the Grey Cup fit-up is on once again, as we've seen CFL types and podcasters and bloggers all getting involved in this once again. And John, we are here to announce that we will not be doing that.
No. I have way too much going on to even try to hope to maintain a healthy lifestyle. I just try to stay just in shape enough that I don't have a heart attack while playing slow pitch.
That is a pretty low bar, so...
hey, so far through this season, I've played one game, and I'm still kicking.
So if you have any ideas out there for what John and I could do instead of 100 days of working out, like, I don't know, we have to eat a bag of chips every day until the Grey Cup, or we have to, well, I'm probably going to do this one anyway, drink a beer or two every day before the Grey Cup, because, that one won't be much of a challenge. So we're open to new ideas and suggestions as to what maybe we could do for the people who are workout adverse. We don't really like being forced to work out. We kind of like to trick ourselves by playing sports and picking up things at work and that sort of thing.
Right. I think this is a fantastic idea. We can be the face of the guys who don't want to be shamed into looking good for Grey Cup. But I think I know why everybody does it, Joel.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it. You go to Grey Cup, you see a lot of people there. You go out, you have the drinks, you're at the parties. And I've never tried to have a Grey Cup romance, but I could imagine it'd be pretty easy. 2 a.m. after too many pills in Ryderville could be like, hey, you're looking good in your George Reed jersey. I have a George Reed jersey. Let's make out. You want to look good for that. So, on behalf of all the married dudes / dad bods that can go to Grey Cup and be fat and happy, we need your ideas. We can be the faces or the bodies.
The guts.
Yes.
We are the guts of this movement.
That's right. Of the anti... Because every party needs a token fat guy that can do the truffle shuffle.
So on that note, as we continue to count down to this year's Grey Cup in honor of our 100-day challenge, John, what's in the glass this week?
I'm going back to another classic by the people that sponsor us that I had to go buy at a store because I completely forgot to meet up with you after the Rider game on Sunday to pick up my sponsored beer. I'm going with just the usual, again, the white IPA from Pile of Bones. It's still warm outside today. A little bit of a backup to 27, 28, so I had to pick myself up some.
That's absolutely fair. I'm also drinking the white IPA, but that's because I have some other beer in the fridge too. But it's the new Rebellion Double IPA, which I am super stoked to try. Mark tells me it's outstanding. But it does come in at 8.2%, so I was like, that's an after-podcast beer.
Yeah, that's definitely after podcast. Unless we're going to go with the concept of us possibly recording a Grey Cup. And where you're just like, we're both pie-eyed on craft beers and seeing what happens.
Well, hopefully there are some parties in Edmonton that allow craft beer.
We'll be like those guys. One of us will be in a trench coat that you just stand outside the party. Hey, kid, you want some Pile of Bones? It's in my jacket. You want to buy?
Well, we'll be at Edmonton, so it would probably be like Bench Creek or something like that.
Oh, no. If I'm going to be an illegal trench coat beer smuggling salesman, it's going to come with me all the way from Saskatoon.
And I guess that's fair.
Got to double up on the illegal. You got to be selling Saskatchewan beer in Alberta illegally out of a trench coat in the back alley, hoping that nobody robs you.
Yeah, I could see that being quite dangerous if people found out that you had a trench coat full of beer all of a sudden.
Although, would it prevent stabbings?
Depends how big the knife is.
Right. So as long as I don't run into Crocodile Dundee, I should be okay.
Yeah, that's probably fair. So there's a lot to get to, as always, in this episode. Before we get to all that, I'm just going to say one thing. Shout out to 3 Down Nation's Josh Smith. It's been a few weeks since we mentioned our number one fan. He made sure to point that out to us after our last episode. In fairness, we had a lot of different things to talk about in last episode that didn't involve anything to do with the CFL other than the Riders, so it kind of slipped our minds. So, Josh, thanks for listening, bud.
That's right. It's the 3 Down Nation. I know what we need to do. We need to do like what they do at like some minor sports events or some national championships. Yep. We are the 3 Down Nation Greencast, brought to you by Pile of Bones, presented by Josh Smith's beard.
Yeah, that. Or
Pile of Bones sponsors the 3 Down Nation Greencast, but we record on Josh Smith hard drive.
No, I don't. I don't understand how that one works. I think
it's like
the physics are beyond me on
Field at Mosaic Stadium. Hey, if we can put a name on it, I can sell it.
Oh, kind of like the brick field at Commonwealth is what you're saying.
There you go. That's
okay.
What I'm trying to make it up.
Yeah, I get it. Maybe I should open that 8.2% beer. Clearly, I am very with it right now.
Hey, I'm on beer number 4 today.
Wow. Did you not work today?
I'm not. No. A couple beers after work, a couple beers with supper, and a beer before podcasting. So I'm not angry, so I can have some beers before podcasting because there's nothing really to be angry about in Rider Nation this week.
No, absolutely not. As we saw last week on Sunday against the Calgary Stampeders, the Riders clearly played their best game of the season. In all 3 facets, they had their best game. And, we love to say, we love to talk about the game, but I don't really know what there is to talk about because talking about that thorough of a beatdown, which the score doesn't really reflect how dominant really they were at times in that game, because like a couple weeks ago when I wrote the piece on 3 Down Nation about how the Riders flipped the script on Calgary because Calgary ran out to that lead a few weeks ago and it was 24-0 after the first quarter and the game was essentially over, so the Riders kind of clawed back into it. But once you're up that much, teams kind of lay off a little bit and it's not really the same. So that's kind of what happened in this game as well, is sort of how I felt about it. But yeah, like you got the feeling right away that something was going to happen in this game because the Riders got the ball right away, and usually you're thinking, oh great, here comes the 2-0 to open the game. Calgary probably comes back and scores. Instead, they put together this masterful drive that went all the way down to basically the goal line. The only flaw in that drive and the second drive, which was also great, was they just didn't finish, and that's really the only thing we can nitpick about in this game at that point, because if they score on those 2 drives, if they put 14 on the board instead of 6, that game's already over.
Oh, certainly. But it was you were in the press box for this one, and I had the fortune of, I was there with my mother and father-in-law, my nearly 3-year-old son, and my wife, and we managed to get tickets 3 rows behind the Rider bench at about the 40-yard line. So, had a great view for the game. And one thing
you
that
also
really
had a great view of Chris Jones not wearing black on the sideline for the first time.
Right? You texted me, and while trying to fumble with the kid and my beers and my food, I get this text, "You've come to a historic game." And I'm like, what am I missing? I haven't been on Twitter for half an hour. What the hell's going on? And you said, Chris Jones is wearing green. And I looked, and I'm like, huh. And my father-in-law said, I'm waiting 3 years to come watch Chris Jones, and I expected him to see him wearing black. Then he sipped his beer and
some of my coworkers were at the game as well, like in my actual day job. And so they were in Pill Country. I met up with them in the little party in the park there that goes on, the little tailgating thing. And I saw like two guys dressed like Chris Jones. They had like the whole done-up shirt and the black, and one guy even had the headset and everything. They were probably disappointed too when they got into the stadium. And Chris Jones is wearing green. Now, we will get into it a little bit later. Chris Jones was wearing green for a very good reason. So this isn't like, we're not just making fun of him because he's wearing green. There's actually a really good reason for him to doing that, and we'll get into that whole campaign, and I have a few things I want to say about that later on. But back to you, John.
You're the angry one for once. So no, it was it was great to be on the field, and I cannot say enough good things about the game day experience at New Mosaic Stadium. But what I found very impressive was from where I was, you could really hear everything that was taking place on the field. I didn't need the TSN Live mic game, and to watch the poise on those opening 2 drives that Zach Collaros has. He walks up to the line, calls out his play, and watching the game back, mostly because I'm a narcissist and I'm trying to spot myself in the stands, watching it back a little bit, you could just see like it was audible after audible. Calgary was trying to throw some unique fronts at him. He sniffed it out. He knew where to go, and there is the big reason. Again, I don't think Zach Collaros was a dominant player in that game. He was very, very, very good. But he did exactly what the Riders need him to do, find the best target, and I mean, he really made a star of Mr. Roll 3 names there, just throwing him open, not making the mistakes, recognizing the coverage and recognizing what he was being given. I was so impressed by watching Zach Collaros and the job he did up close.
Absolutely, and I think that shows the stark contrast of where this offense is headed under him compared to what we saw under Brandon Bridge and Watford. There's a certain level of confidence and poise that you see, and so I wrote it on the piece after. The offense clearly had their best game of the year. They did what they had to do in that football game, and that's great because they were spotted 14 points by the defense, and special teams, more often than not, you do that. You don't need a whole lot from your offense to win a football game, especially with what I think is currently the best defense in the CFL. So, and I know a lot of people in Calgary might get upset about that. That's no disrespect to what their defense has done this year, but if we were to power rank the defenses right now, I would probably say the Riders have won Calgary 2. It's close. I wouldn't disagree if you still put Calgary up there, but to me, that's where it's at right now. And we saw that again in that game because to me, the offense was okay. I still don't know if they can win them a football game if they have to because the defense has an off week, but they did what they had to do. Zach Collaros is calm. He was poised. He made plays that he had to. And most importantly, they didn't turn over the football, really. They had like one fumble, but the defense covered it up and there was no issues there. So they did what they had to do, and that defense, even though I know Chris Jones sort of talked about it a little bit after the game about the fact that the yardage for Calgary was up compared to the last time they played. Yeah, okay, there were some chunk plays in there where they picked up some yards, but it is very rare that you see Bo Levi Mitchell as disoriented as he was in that game. You're used to seeing Calgary's offensive line be among the best in the league, if not the best in the league, week in and week out. You're used to seeing Bo get the ball out quick, and it's hard to get pressure on him, but there they were in his kitchen all night long, and they just didn't have an answer for it, and that is what won them the football game.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny, Joel. I think under Zach Collaros, I'm starting to come around a little bit on the defense. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to, or the offense, pardon me. I think that they do have the tools there that they're still trying to figure out. I think they have the tools there that, if necessary, they can win them a game. I really like the 2 running backs. I thought both of them, against most other teams in the CFL, are probably busting out a couple 10, 20-yard runs. They were running the ball enough to keep them good. Jordan Williams-Lambert is looking like he has the makings of another star CFL receiver. Naaman Roosevelt was doing his stuff. I mean, let's not forget, they just they just managed to put up steady, consistent drives by every measurable metric the CFL's best defense. I'm with you. I think the Riders might have the edge just because of their ability to get pressure on Bo Levi Mitchell. Like it looked like that defensive line, no matter who was there, was flying at 100 miles an hour. That pocket was collapsing the entire night. And the Riders, I was pleasantly surprised too, as we've spoken out against some of the O-line play so far this year. They did a really good job of just making sure Collaros had time. And I thought Collaros, too, when there was pressure, he was running away from it. He was stepping up in the pocket, and he looked like what you need your quarterback to look like. And it was so impressive. And the other thing I found, too, with the offense that was interesting to me is the comments that Deron Carter had made about, the no fun offense and everybody's, kind of down on themselves and it's very stiff and rigid. I have nothing to compare it on, and I'll be the first to say that. But from my position, directly behind their bench, 3 rows up, that unit seemed like they were having a ton of fun. Like, you can definitely see there's a little more swagger, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more great attitudes with the defense. Again, that's because they're good and they know they are. But that offense really seemed to be gelling. You could see the guys talking to each other in a positive way and lifting each other up. And just, it looked like they were having fun. Now, victory against Calgary.
Winning and playing well helps with that.
Oh,
100%. If they were crapping the bed like we've seen in the past, would you have still seen that? I don't know.
No, absolutely not. And I'm not sitting here trying to say, oh, yeah, Robble, this is a Deron Carter return, Rob Bagg. I don't think it has anything to do with it. I almost wonder if they're starting to figure it out that, yeah, maybe the dictatorship isn't working. Maybe we need to figure this out. We have some veteran guys there that know what they're doing. I mean, I could have swore Zach Collaros called half the plays, at least in that first half alone.
It's entirely possible, and like I said, the offense, it looked okay. They looked their best. They did what they had to do. So the question that has kind of evolved from this football game, and I heard it a lot on the CJME, CKOM Green Zone post-game show as I was driving home from the stadium when I left, was the question was now, where's this team headed? Do you believe that this is the Saskatchewan Roughriders now, that this wasn't just what they do sometimes? We've seen it time and time again where they head into a week where it looks like everything is going against them. It's a zoo. It's a gong show. There is a 0% chance that anyone should ever pick them to win that football game. And so naturally, of course, they win because that's what they do. And so yeah. I thought about it. It crossed my mind. I should have done it, but I didn't. So is it that? Is this team actually headed in a direction now that you can believe in? Or, as Belton Johnson thinks on there, and I agree with him, do you need to see it a few more times before you start to believe? Because we've seen them win the impossible game and then follow it up with a mess.
Yeah, I'm with Belton Johnson on that one. I mean, this is a team that has both lost to Montreal and beaten the Stampeders in the same couple weeks stretch. Now, again, that's with and without their starting quarterback, and I think the Collaros effect is more massive on this team than I think anybody really anticipated it would be. I mean, you're going from it just seems like the poise seems to follow Collaros, especially on offense, right? So I need to see it, and everybody could say it was close against Edmonton. It was close against Calgary the first go around, on the score sheet. But I think I need to see it. I think I need to see them reel off 3 in a row here. I mean, and they're kind of setting up to be in a position to do that. The Labor Day Classic, more often than not, goes their direction anyways, no matter seemingly how good or how bad the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are. So chalk that one up as a should/must win. Win this week, there's a little 3-game winning streak for you.
Yeah, I think this week they have to beat BC because you need to create that separation. With not only to prove it, I think they need to beat BC, and they need to throttle them and show that they are clearly a much better team than BC, who have shown improvements this year and are still very much in the conversation for a playoff picture spot, especially if they happen to beat the Riders this week. So a lot of it will depend on how this week goes. If they kind of luck their way to a win or they lose, then I'm like, well, this team is still what we thought it was for a while, which is they just kind of tread water all year, and they might get there, they might not. We don't really know what they are. We've seen that before. That's kind of been the MO of the Chris Jones Riders for the most part. So we're looking for them now to take that step. And for them to do that, they need to beat BC pretty handily. And, I think big picture, if they can win both against Winnipeg, that's probably the only way they're really going to get toward hosting a home playoff game. But They need to win 2 of their next 3 for sure and play well in that loss, likely in the Banjo Bowl, to show to me that, okay, yes, this team is for real. They're making a run of some kind here. This isn't just they had a great game against a big rival that they felt that they lost. They beat themselves a couple times ago, so there was all these emotions of the moment and everything going on. So they put it all together once. If they do it a few more times, then we'll be having a different conversation about this team, not only just kind of being a playoff bubble team, but potentially making a pretty big run in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, Joel. I would think they need to make a statement this week coming up against BC and do your job on Labor Day against the Bombers. And then, again, it's going to be hard to say this team isn't for real if they can win the next 3 in a row. One of them we're already basically saying, okay, we know they're going to get it. This game against BC, the way their defenses look, they should win this game against BC. So
we've seen them lose games they should win before, though.
I know, and as soon as I say that, I think to myself, we're saying they should win Labor Day because they always win Labor Day. They should beat BC. This game this weekend is going to be very fascinating to me. What's the reaction? Does the defense come with pressure again? It seems like BC teams playing there. I don't know if it's maybe just because I'm half awake or half in the bag or I had one too many drinks, but it always seems like there's a low energy associated with that game from everybody's kind of standpoint. So I'd like to see them go out, and I don't think they need to hand BC, beat them up and take their lunch money. I think even if they just go out and win a solid, good football game, they'll have continued to establish that they are amongst, the better teams in the league rather than what they've kind of looked like at times, i.e. against Montreal, in which we all thought the sky was falling.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably true, and it's going to be a challenge heading into BC. It's always tough going there, and it's important to note that the Lions are undefeated at home this year, so clearly whatever they're doing at home right now is working, and the Riders have struggled a little against the West, and they've struggled a little on the road, and so this is a big game for them to prove that they're growing, because football, like all other sports, your regular season is a process. It's not about where you start, It's where you finish. And this is a week where they need to prove that they've taken a step from being that sort of bubble on and off team to a team that is going to consistently win football games. Does that mean they're going to win out the rest of the year? No. But they need to show that they can do that and be at least a threat to possibly do it, not necessarily do it. So it all starts this week against BC. And the other thing that they need to watch out for, and we've seen it time and time again, considering how emotional that game was and how big of a win over a longtime rival it was, we've seen teams, and we've seen the NFL a lot, you come off that big rivalry win against a team, and you play another team that you maybe don't quite have that same feeling for, and you fall flat. So it's hard to recreate the magic and the emotion of that one game against the Calgary Stampeders, because you're really jacked up to play the Calgary Stampeders, and then you follow it up the next week on the road in a place where there's maybe going to be 13,000 people there. It's kind of empty, it's quiet other than the sound they pipe in, and it doesn't manifest itself the same way. And so I feel like in that regard, even just that alone is going to make this game a struggle, and that's something they're going to have to mentally prepare for and overcome heading into this game.
Yeah, and I would agree with all of that. I think big picture, it was okay, and I think the fan base was okay, and I think people that cover the team were okay with the team playing well but losing against Calgary and Edmonton the past couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can be okay with playing well and losing against BC. This is one that if you want to continue making that upward trend, this is one you have to win.
Yeah, and I think even just for the sake of keeping it, your chances of getting at least a crossover spot secure, you need to win this game because I think they're only a game up on BC right now. So you lose that game, all of a sudden you're tied again. BC currently holds the tiebreaker with a game to go, so it becomes a little wishy-washy. And and who knows where BC is going to go from here? Maybe they start winning football games, and you need that edge with the head-to-head win.
It's funny how similar BC and Saskatchewan have seemingly been this year.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what you're getting out of either one of them any week.
Well, isn't that, like, other than, for the most part, we're talking big picture here, don't think about just the last game. That's, to me, and I've had this conversation with people. I actually ran into the Riders' former Canadian scout Craig Smith at the Regina Farmers Market this week. And we talked a little bit of CFL, and he was like, man, did Winnipeg get their butts whipped last night? I was like, yeah. I was like, but man, that's just the CFL this year. You have Calgary clearly at 1, you have Montreal clearly at 9, and in between that 2 and 8, anything can happen any week. And while for those of us who are asked to make predictions every week, it makes it very aggravating because you don't know what the heck to do, or just when you think you have it figured out, something else happens. From a fan perspective, it's amazing because you really don't know, unless Calgary is playing Montreal, you really don't know what's going to happen every game.
But the funny thing is, with the way the Calgary's looked starting in the game against Saskatchewan, with the late near comeback and then, of course, losing to Saskatchewan, they're not looking as invincible as they did in games, say, 1 through 5. And I honestly think that Montreal has been written off to the point that, like, they give Edmonton a game. Now, that's a classic trap game for Edmonton, but still, I think maybe 1 and 9 are getting a little closer to the 2 and 8 cluster that's been going on. And that's also our debut of the new sound that we're going to, that Joel's going to edit in whenever John drops a swear word that we can't air on the podcast.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I think the margins are shrinking a little bit at the top, but maybe more so on Calgary's end than Montreal's. I think Montreal is still going to continue to find a way to lose football games.
Oh, yeah.
And Calgary, they're going to have a lull at some point during the season. They weren't going to play at the level that they did. And frankly, I think if they actually want to win the Grey Cup, they actually need to find some adversity and learn how to overcome it, because we saw it in that football game when stuff goes wrong, and we've seen it before in Grey Cups and stuff for them. They can't pull it together when stuff starts to hit the fan for them. It just they lose their composure and they turn into a weird football team.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I see you didn't swear because you didn't want to hear the horrible noise of me clearing my throat again.
No, and I also know how to censor myself from time to time. Especially when there's, the old radio rule, if there's a microphone in front of you, don't swear, right?
However, I do know that, but you also told me before this podcast, after you caught the audio clip of me clearing my throat, that's the new censoring ourselves sound. I had to drop one in there just to hear it. Whatever
you need to make yourself feel better for breaking our rule that we don't really need to have. I don't really know the rules of the site. I'm pretty sure swearing's probably actually okay because we're on the internet, but we generally like to keep it clean.
It's true. We generally like the kids. However, speaking of swearing, keeping it clean, Joel, you were texting me that you're a little fired up about some of the more lowbrow, I would call it idiotic reaction to the CFL's Diversity is Strength campaign. My friend, you have the floor because I have no way of stopping you.
So, when we get into this, this is almost a commentary on kind of what's going on in the world in general right now and how politicized, for some reason, everything has to be.
Yeah.
No matter which side of the spectrum you fall on, there are people who are so they're so entrenched in their sides, and they're hyper political, and it's my way or the highway, it's my party, and all they need to do is win. And it drives me up the dang wall. Because there was the responses, and there were people who were tweeting at teams and at the CFL that, oh, this is all some big ruse because of Justin Trudeau and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, hold your damn horses. They started planning this campaign well over a year ago, probably even before the last election, before Donald Trump was president of the United States. Like, this was something they were working on last offseason because they had the t-shirts, they had everything ready to go, they had this great marketing campaign around it. And So then Donald Trump starts being a racist in America, so they decide to move it up a little bit last year. And it goes over so well that they decide to bring it back. And I think, and when we're complaining about these people, it's just the vocal minority who for some reason just see politics as a sport, or they just don't want politics in sport, and I'll touch on that in a second too. But especially with this one, this isn't a political issue. This isn't about any specific party. This isn't about any specific policy. This isn't about any specific platform. Essentially, this is, hey, treat everyone equally and treat everyone nicely. How is that some kind of political idea? It's a freaking, just a good idea in general, whether you're conservative, NDP, liberal, libertarian, Green Party, Rhinoceros Party, it doesn't matter. Like, I just can't wrap my head around how for some reason people think that treating everyone nicely is somehow this idea of the left. Well, if that is, then call me a freaking communist because, yeah, we should treat everyone nicely. What a novel idea. You know?
Show your commie bastard being a decent human being.
Right? And then there's this idea that, okay, even if this was political, it's not. But anyway, even if it was, sports and politics have always been intertwined in certain ways. Mm-hmm. There's always been things that have happened in sports, like Jackie Robinson was kind of a political thing. There was the American athletes at the Olympics who raised their fists during, unrest in the States. Like, this is not new. And if you really want to get into this, and, I'm not saying I agree with what I'm about to say, I'm just kind of playing a little bit of devil's advocate here. If you really want to take politics completely out of sports, it said no politics zone ever, 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 ever. Okay, no more national anthem before the game. No more military appreciation nights. No more recognizing Remembrance Day. The people who say that this is a bad political thing don't have any problems with those ones because it fits their nice little political window. And I said it on Twitter where I said, okay, anyone who has a problem with diversity is strength because it's a political issue in sports probably wouldn't have an issue if the CFL came out with a tax cuts are awesome week. Because it fits in their little window. Business tax cuts are great week in the CFL would go over great probably amongst these people who for some reason think that this is some kind of scheme put together by the CFL and Justin Trudeau to force everyone to love each other or something. I don't know.
You're bang on, man. It's so foreign to me and so lacking that people find a way to take offense to a campaign that is strictly like, my political beliefs generally do not align with Justin Trudeau. But I am the first one to say I love diversity as strength because there's no damn correlation between the two. Be a good human. Just, that's all I'm saying. That's what the shirts might as well say. Don't be dicks to each other. Like, how can you not get behind this? I mean, you don't have to go and spend $30 on the shirt if you don't want. Which, by the way, I tried to go spend $30 on a shirt, and the Rider store was completely sold out.
Probably because Chris Jones was wearing them. Probably.
That's as soon as I saw it, I'm like, well, I figured as a non-Saskatchewan fan living in Saskatchewan, I decided, it's my son's first game. I'm there with the family. I'll wear some green. So I wore a green Winnipeg Jets t-shirt, and I'm like, you know what? This would be my way of saying, hey, it's a green shirt. Diversity is strength. Hughes is a beauty. And I couldn't do it. Couldn't find a shirt. I mean, they had like small human sizes and like very large human sizes, not slightly large human sizes.
Well, if our plan works, then maybe by the time Grey Cup rolls around, you will fit into the large human sizes.
Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.